teachers. Today we're going to be talking about Clowns by Kabalevsky. This is from his Op.39, which is music for children, which has many delightful pieces at the late elementary, early intermediate level. This is one of my all-time favorite pieces to teach, so I'm so happy to talk with you about it today. It's in many collections. I am looking right now at the Music Pathways book 4B. I'm pretty sure this was my book when I was a child, so this is an older series. It's in Masterwork Classics book 4. And then there are some Schirmer Performance editions, which are newer collections, the Baroque to Modern, as well as the 20th century, and you can find it in different books of those, as well as Keith Snell has a Chose publication of just this opus of Kabalevsky pieces, and many other places you can find it. There's a link in the description to Sheet Music Plus where you can look at all the different books that contain this piece. This is on the RCM level 3, and it's in the current Celebration series book, as well as for my Illinois colleagues, it's on the AIM level 6. I actually think this is a great piece for level 6. It's easier than some other ones, but I think it has a lot of really good concepts right at that level. So I do recommend considering this for your students when preparing for our AIM exams. All right, so here's just to remind your ears what Clown sounds like. And on from there. It's such a happy, bright piece that really evokes just the idea of clowns bouncing around, and kids can very quickly have a mental picture for what this music is evoking for them. All right, so what knowledge do your students have to have, or skills do they need in order to play this piece well? Well, there's no key signature, so that's not a starting point issue. However, Kabalevsky seems to move between A major and its parallel minor, A minor, so A major minor, and then F major and minor. So I would strongly suggest that your students know at least the pentascales for both A and F, and understand the difference between the C sharp and the C natural, making major and minor there, that third note is what changes it. If you haven't already been teaching pentascales, maybe teach a few of them before you do this so that they understand just that idea. Now that said, you're not going to stay in the 5-finger pattern for this piece. So they're not going to be playing with their thumb on A or their thumb on F necessarily as they go through this. So we're not working towards that position. We just want them to understand the major and minor relationship. We're in 2/4 time with 16th notes. However, this is such a steady piece because of the left-hand ostinato in 8th notes that I actually don't think the rhythm is difficult in this, and I think you can teach a little bit of it by rote. It's so catchy. I don't think that's one of the more difficult aspects of this piece. It's very easy. Even though we don't have that key signature, since we are moving through some different tonalities, there's a lot of accidentals. So you want to make sure your students are good at paying attention to those, understanding that they last until the next bar line and all of that. And that's generally typical of a lot of early 20th century music anyway. So it's something that's just part of this style that when you go on to your next Kabalevsky or Khachaturian or Shostakovich piece is going to probably be an issue in that next one as well. So it's good practice on reading accidentals. I already mentioned that the left hand is frequently doing an ostinato pattern of the tonic and the 5th with then that octave jump. It does it on A, it also does it on F. And besides just an initial introduction to this piece and talking about clowns, that's what I teach first in this piece, because I want my students to be so comfortable with that it's not something that they're even thinking about. They've really mastered how to play this in a nice, relaxed, but bouncy manner. Not holding the octave tensely open, but just being able to bounce. And you can use a lot of imagery here, thinking about a clown or an acrobat doing back flips, and the idea that things are bouncing around and that you're not sitting on the keys and just wiggling your fingers. That's not what you want to do here. Overall, in addition to those staccatos in the left hand, your right hand also has to be willing to be very bouncy and move around. There's also some quick left hand moves. In other places, the classic place for students to mess up or slow down because they can't play it well enough is, of course, at measure 16. I'm starting at 15. How many of you have had a student play a low C instead of E? So it's a good opportunity to remind everybody that below the bass clef and above the treble clef, one ledger line is not C. That's just in the middle for middle C. So I would do a lot of drilling of those 4 chords in measure, or 3 chords in one low E in measure 15 and 16. And make sure that students recognize that they're just going down by half steps there. Everything over the bar line here goes down 1/2 step. So really have your kids look at their hands. They have to understand the black-white topography of this, where their hand is really moving. And that's just gonna need a lot of drill. Maybe 7 stages of misery, as Philip Johnson says. Just that much, and then once you've got that, and then you're back. Of course, the other tricky part is the last 3 chords, and that's the other part that you'll have to really work on with your students. Also, don't let them hold the last chord. What is it about that? Why do my students want to hold that last chord? It wrecks the whole idea of the bounce. If you play, that's not how this piece goes. And hop right off, and that gives it that lovely bouncy finish. I think my last 2 comments about what this piece needs and what you want to make sure your student is ready to do and that you coach them to do it really effectively is there are very fast dynamic changes. The move from A major and minor into F goes from mezzo forte to piano. So maybe that's a different clown coming onto the circus stage, or maybe it's some change in lighting in the circus set, whatever. Something is going on there. And then they have to be really willing to play forte at the end and really make a bright ending. Overall, the louder dynamic, the articulation, really require a very exciting and energetic performance. So if you have a student who likes to play with a lot of energy, this is a great piece for them. If you have a student who needs to work on playing with a lot of energy, this is a great piece because there's such an easy connotation to something that we can all kind of relate to. The idea of clowns bouncing around, being funny, doing ridiculous things, having a lot of energy to entertain their audience. So it's a great way to work on that with your students. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out my website, and best wishes to you in your teaching.